Hello everyone, this is Devendra and today I'm going to talk about one of the most controversial books of our time, Annihilation of Caste by Dr. B R Ambedkar. We all know B R Ambedkar as the father of Indian Constitution. He headed a seven-member committee that was responsible for drafting the Constitution after almost 3 years and heavy influence from the Government of India Act of 1935, the Indian Independence Act of 1947 and constitutions of other Western countries, the longest written constitution of the world, the Constitution of India was created. I would love to dive deeper into it, but we are here for a different objective today. Dr. Ambedkar despised the caste system in India and did good work towards reforming the Hindu society. However, eventually he decided to leave Hinduism and embraced Buddhism along with his followers. Ambedkar had strong feelings against the caste system that gradually turned into hate for the entire Hindu society. Annihilation of Caste is a collection of letters between Ambedkar, Jaat-Paat Todak Mandal, MK Gandhi, and one of his undelivered speeches. Let me tell you what is in the books and if you should read it or not. Author Bhimrao Ramji Ambedkar, 14th April 1891 to 6th December 1956, was an Indian economist, jurist, social reformer, and political leader. He was the 14th and the last child of Ramji Maloji Sakpal, an army officer who held the rank of Subedar, and Bhimabai Sakpal, daughter of Lakshman Murbatkar. After graduating from Elphinstone College, University of Bombay, Ambedkar studied economics at Columbia University and the London School of Economics, receiving doctorate in 1927 and 1923 respectively, and was among a handful of Indian students to have done so at either institution in the 1920s. He also trained in the law at Gray's Inn, London. In his early career, he was also an economist, professor, and a lawyer. Ambedkar served as Law and Justice Minister in the first cabinet of Jawaharlal Nehru. He later converted to Buddhism and inspired the Dalit Buddhist movement after renouncing Hinduism. Summary: the book was the first original work by Ambedkar that I have read so far. I am impressed with the amount of research Ambedkar did to write his speech. Ambedkar addressed several questions that we may have had at some point of our lives. Being part of the community that was labeled as untouchables gave him first-hand experience regarding the apartheid people from the present SC/ST community faced before India earned its freedom. Ambedkar did not shy away from voicing his opinion to the public. MK Gandhi and Jaat-Paat Todak Mandal. Ambedkar believed that the Brahmins were the root cause of all the evils of the society. They kept the power of knowledge with them, and the rest of the society stayed dependent on Brahmins. Most ancient Indian literature had this common theme ingrained with society should always respect the Brahmins and follow their lead. The Brahmins systematically banned most the entire Hindu society and made sure that they were always protected. Brahmins never liked the idea of a mixed society where any person could marry, work, eat, and stay with any person they wished from any community or jati. Ambedkar also pointed out that most of the social reforms in the Hindu society were led by Brahmins themselves. It was a paradoxical scenario where Brahmins were trying to solve a problem they created and tried to remain the good guys. He believed that the Brahmins were the first ones to introduce the concept of untouchability and called them Shudras. Several verses of Manusmriti suggested Shudras not to walk on the same path a Brahmin walked. They were never allowed to touch a Brahmin or high pawns. Shudras were condemned to remain an unpaid slave for their entire lives and not to have a life of their own. Ambedkar talked about the same predicament faced by people in other countries. He gave an example of Ireland where some parts of society was suppressed. However, it was still better than the Indian society because the Irish people could revolt against all the cruelty. They took up arms and made sure all their rights were safe. In contrast to Indian society, the Dalits had no history of rebellion against Brahmins or any higher class in the jungle. This question haunted Ambedkar for years. He concluded in his mind that the Indian society suppressed the Dalits so much that they could never done anything. No kind of resources or empowerment was ever provided to the Dalits, so they could raise their voice against the cruelty against them. He believed that the Brahmins institutionalized and normalized the evil in society to such an extent that no one ever felt anything wrong. Dalits were dependent on other classes of society, and that made them submissive. Ambedkar also explained his reservations about the concept of Chaturvarna. Ambedkar believed that a society is way more complex than to be categorized into a few sections. All the types of people and jobs are present in the world and they are too complex to give any class of society the upper hand over the other. It will again come to the same point as why a Shudra should serve the rest of the classes in the Varna system. What made them better than Shudras? If Shudras are supposed to be dependent on Brahmins for knowledge, Kshatriyas for protection, and Vaishyas for money or other materials, they they can never achieve a better place in society. They will always be deprived of the opportunity to grow as a society. Eventually, Ambedkar put the blame on the Hindus itself. He believed it to be the worst of all and declared it not fit for Indians. He called it rotten and showed no hope for any improvement. He thought that it would be for the best if Hinduism could be annihilated and would usher into a new era with no caste. He did not see Hinduism and caste as different entities but saw them as one. He believed that the only way for Dalits to leave the Hindu fold and accept other religion was to get out of this oppressive society. My opinion, I do not doubt Ambedkar is a great scholar. He did great work for the oppressed class and was awarded equal rights in the constitution. However, when it comes to his opinion on Hinduism, I found them somewhat biased and politically motivated. Through his undelivered speech, I observed a lot of nitpicking of the issues and the reference he provided. Most of his thoughts were politically motivated and he could not stay unbiased when it came to Hindu society. He specifically selected the worst of Hindu religion and skipped the best part of it. He treated the entire religion as a disease that had just one remedy: annihilation. Ambedkar generalized in his speech and gave blanket opinion about Hinduism. He looked at the reformers and saints with suspicion and looked at their acts as further problematic. Even Jaat-Paat Todak Mandal wanted to abolish the caste system in India and usher into a new era of one identity, that is Hinduism. However, Ambedkar disagreed with them and considered Hinduism a big problem. He believed that Hindus are programmed to not to think about the lower class of society and treat them with disrespect. However, we have seen umpteen examples where a person could gain knowledge and become respectable in society. Ambedkar picked a few verses from Manusmriti and Puranas to prove his points that Hindus always advocated discrimination on the basis of birth, though that was devoid of the truth. The Indian ancient scriptures advocated karma-based classes and called karma the only dharma. Rules for each and every class were strict and they were supposed to follow them till the end. Ambedkar ignored the fact that Hinduism was not based on a single book, scripture, or thought process. Hinduism is vast and ever evolving. Hindus always supported the reforms owing to which they survived centuries of oppression from foreign invaders. Ambedkar suggested Hindu follow just one book, and that's not Hinduism. Hinduism always provided the liberty to thinkers to come up with their own ideas and always let them follow their own path. Ambedkar believed that the caste system in India became rigid because of internal factors. However, it is a common knowledge that the caste system became rigid after consistent invasion of foreign forces. Ambedkar said that if someone wanted to pursue a different occupation from their respective caste, then he would not be able to do so because of the rigid caste system, and eventually he would die hungry. But that's not true at all. Farming was prevalent then, and people from all castes and creeds were into farming and related works. In spite of all the disagreements, I cannot shy away from the fact that Hinduism did have a lot of problems and still does. The times Ambedkar lived in were indeed way more rigid and backward than what we see today. Society was divided into several parts and the growth was stagnant. Ambedkar himself was the son of an army officer and he graduated from one of the best colleges in India. He completed his PhD from London and had a successful career in teaching and law. He did not have the first-hand experience of the apartheid his fellow community members faced, but untouchability was a real problem. And we still see it in some parts of India. Ambedkar might have over-exaggerated things to prove his points. There was some truth in what he said. MK Gandhi believed the same and advised Ambedkar to have a balanced opinion instead of giving a biased and blanket opinion about Hinduism. Conclusion: Annihilation of Caste by B R Ambedkar is a small but interesting read. Most Indians certainly have no idea how Indian society was before independence. This book can be an eye-opener and make you think about the subject. The caste system is still prevalent in India and we still see discrimination among castes. So at the end, I will say that please go ahead, give it a read and let me know what you think about the book, what you think about the thoughts of Ambedkar, and what you think about this review. If you have any suggestions, please give it to me. Like this video and whatever platform you are listening to it, and subscribe to my channel, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'll come back with another banger review.